vampires into their house. Pretend they don't see when the teeth come out. Put a band-aid on their throat. No one wants to rock the boat. And no one wants to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. Rises and the players come out. Webs of lies spinning from their mouths. Stop looking, listen for a little while. And you will see a friendly smile. Pay no attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady drip. I promise to leave you a little bit. I'll be back for another drink tomorrow. I love the taste of your terror and your sorrow bathing in your blood. It's never enough. Program reality, double thing duality, a boot upon the face of all mankind. Our numbers up and the dead for the time. Go along to get along. Hypnotized by the siren song. The flames are empty and the crypts are cracking open. The horde's upon you and you stand there frozen, waiting for the word. Stand in line and wait your turn. Don't follow the strings to find out who is pulling. Just drink your poison, keep on laughing and drooling, eating your own flesh. The master always knows what's best. Worldwide genocide. The overlords of hungry parasites. They point the finger and the eagles fly. Raining fire, children die. Starving plague, paralyzed. Pile of bodies rotten, covered in fire. But no one wants to talk about it. It's safer not to talk about it. I cut my strings, no more bowing to the master. I tried to run, but they only came faster. Now I stand my ground. I ain't backing down. Silver bullets in my pistol, in my holster. My will is strengthened and my confidence is bolstered. Don't test my resolve. Don't test my resolve.
Hello and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. It is Sunday. It's got a new microphone placement there. It's April, the 3rd, 2022. We're coming to you from Carter County, Tennessee. My name is Cliff. I'm joined by my buddies Tim and Dustin here. And we are talking to you about news and current events. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button. And if you have subscribed, we're going to need you to go ahead and hit the notification bell. That way you'll know when the new episodes are up, which, here's a spoiler alert, it's going to be every Sunday and Wednesday at 10 p.m. We're going to be live coming to you here from the Iron Mountain. Sometimes via Skype, sometimes live with everybody in the same room. This coming Wednesday, we've got mayoral candidate for Carter County, Mike A.C. Enzer. He's going to be joining us via Zoom live at 10:15. So be sure and tune in for that. So we want to thank you for joining us. Tonight's episode, we're going to be looking at some clips from the World Government Summit that took place at the end of March. And it happened since the last episode. It covers a lot of the ideas that we discussed from the very beginning, going back to episode 1, with the smart poles and our We're Not Ready for Mars, our pilot episode. We discussed how Johnson City was going to be a pilot, or in a pilot program from the TVA and Bright Ridge, the city energy company, that was going to install some smart poles in the parks down in downtown Johnson City. Well, when we started off, we didn't know where it was going to be, but as we followed the story, WJHL, WCYB, a couple of the local news outlets reported that they're going to be in the Founders Park and the Kings Common areas. So that's where these poles are going to be. We don't know what sensors are going to be on these poles yet, but we do know it can have a whole lot of tracking capabilities for gathering lots of data on who is coming downtown, who they're meeting with, where they're going, what they're doing. All kinds of different goodies that are going to be on these things, including cameras. So to a lot of people, that's probably a good thing because they think it'll make the area more safe. A lot of people probably don't like the lack of privacy that entails.
Have you been downtown lately?
I work down there, so I'm down there regularly.
Did you notice how they took the complete canopy completely off the alleyway now?
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't been downtown Johnson City in a little bit.
Been on that.
Okay, you know the breezeway, right?
Yeah.
The canopy is completely gone now, and there's just I don't think there's any seating now.
No, it's just an open air pathway there. So
Big part of keeping grifters and drifters and homeless and real anybody from hanging around after dark or trying to stay out of the rain, rather.
Yeah.
well, we see also that they are moving the residents of the Johnson John Sevier Center from downtown Johnson City there.
It's the big one on the corner.
That's the largest apartment building that I know of in Johnson City.
Good location for anything that would want to be there too.
I think they've pretty much got the details worked out, much like many of these plans that we see with renovating a city for new things. They've been planned well in advance. So they do have a place for the residents there down on South Ronan. And to be honest, it probably is a long time coming. That building is quite old and probably needs a lot of repair work done and needs a complete restoration, remodel before it's really going to be what it deserves to be, that old building. And so it does seem like they, as we talked earlier, Tim, you mentioned that you feel like it is part of a larger effort to basically gentrify the downtown area. Could you speak on that for a minute?
Well, the smart poles.
Catch us up.
Well, the smart poles were the first giveaway, and then I don't remember what episode we talked about it on, but we also talked about how Kingsport put the wooden bricks in the middle of their benches, so the benches aren't a bed, and they also put the staggered grates. So like I guess they're like kind of like where heat comes up out of the streets. People try to get warm on them during the winter time. And so what they do is they stagger the metal so it's uncomfortable so you won't lay on them.
Right.
So it's these little subtle things they do to keep homeless people from wanting to hang out. And they're doing things like that downtown Johnson City now. Like they removed the breezeway, or the panhandlers is what you would want to call them. Then Guitar Dan, I assume he's passed away, hadn't he? I haven't seen him in a long
did.
I'm trying to think of anything else I've seen downtown Johnson, other than just the mass amount of businesses moving in. And I guess I don't want this to sound ill, but like just a regular downtown that has no tourism and low income, it's usually restaurants and a few normal businesses. Now that you're starting to see what I would call, pardon my French if this is mean, I would call superfluous businesses. Like, for example, there is a place that just sells like succulent plants. I mean, downtown John, that's an expensive piece of real estate. Mm-hmm. And it's a spot that just sells succulent plants now. And that lets me know that we've got enough money in the area. And I'm not knocking it. I'm saying that's a good thing that we can have a store completely dedicated to plants in downtown Johnson City. But that also means that's a sure sign of gentrification right there.
Of just succulent plants.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe not just succulent, but...
Well, but that's the name of the plant store, yeah.
Is it? It's called a terrarium.
Oh, okay. I thought you said that it was a succulent. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, I don't speak correctly.
No, I misunderstood you. My bad. So, yeah, that we've talked about that over several different episodes. And we've talked in several other episodes about the World Economic Forum and their president, Klaus Schwab, and their goal to have us owning nothing and liking it and being happy by 2030. I looked at a Reuters fact check earlier. Let's see if I can pull that up real quick to to assure us that there was no plan for us to own nothing and like it by 2030. They actually had a video on their website that they since removed where they were saying just that, and they had an actor saying, you know, I can't wait to basically own nothing and be happy. Here's the 3-minute clip. Here's the fact check from Reuters. Hopefully we can pull this up and let you guys see it. Let me switch back to the main one there. It's doing its thing again. There we go. We gotta do it the old-fashioned way. Here's the Reuters fact check. The 3-minute clip, which they don't show here, but they describe, has how we can stop them from stealing everything from us. Was what it was shared. And let's talk about the World Economic Forum's stated goals for 2030. It does say, including several of the predictions from the 2016 World Economic Forum video that's been since deleted, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Whatever you want, you'll rent, and it'll be delivered by drone. Let's see if we can find it here.
Are they saying that's just a prediction taken out of context?
Yes, well, let's look at it right here.
Because honestly, I'm not real aware of a lot of where this stuff comes from.
The U.S. won't be the world's leading superpower, just in case.
A handful.
A handful of countries will dominate, yeah. You won't die waiting for an organ. We won't transplant it unless you haven't taken a certain medicine. Then you probably might die.
Much less meat.
No.
Occasional treat, not a staple for the good of the environment. That doesn't make any sense.
Hang on just a second. Let's pause that for just a second, because this is a common misconception that, you know, that meat is bad for the environment. Let's break this down from, this is how I heard it explained by a rancher. If you take the amount of land that it takes them to raise cattle on, for one, the cattle can eat grass. So that's a plant that there's really not much use for, other than for the cattle to eat, but they can digest it and they can make use of that.
And we spend money every week having people cut ours for no reason when you could get a cow, I guess.
The amount of land that it takes to graze cattle uses far less water than it does to fill that thing with vegetables. Second of all, you're using less water, you're using less land, and you are polluting less in order to do this. You are also, this is something that he didn't say, but you are plowing over a huge amount of land in order to plant plants there, vegetables. You have to pump huge amounts of water into them. They don't grow in those areas naturally most of the time, and you have to keep them going with a extra amount of water. You also kill all the animals, the rodents, the rabbits, the prairie dogs, whatever it may be that lives under there in your area when you plow that huge area. So the idea that eating, because cows fart and have methane and carbon dioxide, which are greenhouse gases, this is why they want us to eat less meat. But the amount of vegetables, the scale of the farming that would have to be done to grow the amount of vegetables to feed the amount of people they want to feed with them would be insane, requiring huge amounts of energy and water, which could better be used growing meat, or farming meat, or giving to people to drink rather than just pouring onto the ground so we can have vegetables. Especially with shortages of things like fertilizer in the news right now.
Look at soybeans. I guess anybody who's been online for a little while knows, but I guess your normal person doesn't know that soybeans are the reason the Amazon catches fire every year. Mm-hmm. Like the media portrays the Amazon catching fire, screams climate change, and then they just completely leave out the fact that they set those fires on purpose to clear out all the dead soybean plants for last year's harvest because they're about to plant more. And that's the actual real travesty, is they're actually cutting down more and more of the rainforest to plant more in these stupid soybeans that they have to go through it. I mean, if anybody likes tofu, I'm not going to go after you, but don't pretend like it's saving the environment, because it's literally the reason the Amazon is burning down. Okay.
Well, let's go back to this. 1 billion people will be displaced by climate change. Well, probably from all the crap they're doing to. Anyway, let's look at this. Oh, it stopped us.
No.
Nope.
If you could get it to me good, I think I'd eat it.
I've never had it in a way that I liked it. I've tried it several times. 1 billion people will be displaced by climate change.
Well, that's not a real picture. That's the.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, we'll have to do a better job of welcoming and integrating refugees. Polluters will have to pay to emit carbon dioxide. There will be a global price on carbon. That global cap and trade system that we talked about, to where rich people can still use carbon
Yeah,
as long as they
they're
pay.
just finding a way to make it, to find ways to filter more tax dollars.
They're
to
muscling the poor people out of it is what they do. The rich corporations can afford to do it. Western values will have been tested to the breaking point.
But it's like all the normal people combined pollute less than the big corporations do already.
Yep. With all their private planes and mega yachts and just normal jet travel is one of the largest emitters of carbon dioxide, but you don't see them telling us that we have to stop that, do you?
Anything's legal if you got the money.
Well, you know how we talked about New World Order a couple weeks ago. Well, last week is when it was. We talked about New World Order, and it was, widely considered to be a conspiracy theory.
These 24-inch pythons.
Right.
That's what it is.
Yeah, old brother Hulk Hogan. Yeah, I don't remember what it was. 28, 22. I don't know. He had some giant pythons though. And that's when this President Bush speech was in 1991, proclaiming that we were going to be taking part in a new world order, and
when they came out.
That was in the mid 90s, so it was a few years after that. But they were the bad guys in wrestling, and Hulk Hogan, was fighting against them in the storyline, and all of a sudden he decided to turn to the dark side and became part of the NWO. Yeah.
And then there's a red sect of the NWO that broke off eventually called Wolfpack.
The Wolfpack. Yeah. So anybody who was paying attention to wrestling in the mid 90s definitely remembers that. That was such a huge storyline, and they got their whole New World Order on, brother. Well, at any rate, let's look at this right quick. New World Order conspiracy theory from Wikipedia. This article is about the conspiracy theory. For other uses, see New World Order. But it says this is a conspiracy theory which hypothesizes a secretly emerging totalitarian world government. Okay, nobody would see a totalitarian world government coming into place from what's going on today, would they? The common theme in the conspiracy theory about a new world order is that a secretive power elite with a globalist agenda conspiring to eventually rule the world through an authoritarian one world government, which will replace sovereign nation states, and an all-encompassing propaganda whose ideology hails the establishment of a new world order as the culmination of history's progress. Okay, so for one, it will replace sovereign nation states. Well, that's definitely something that has been talked about a lot. That basically there would be a framework within which that nations had to operate, and who would decide what that is, and that would be basically the New World Order. So this describes a conspiracy theory that they pretty much. They're saying this is not real by saying it is a conspiracy theory. So let's look at a couple of things real quick. We talked about several instances of it being used historically. Let's look at, this is the World Government Summit 2022. Less than 30 seconds into the opening ceremonies or the opening speech, we get this.
And the title of this session, are we ready for the new world order?
So we didn't have to wait very long for that. And we also have several different speakers talking about the New World Order, and it's not a conspiracy theory. Let's listen to this gentleman, Wavel Ramkalawan, the president of Seychelles, discussing the importance of the World Government Summit in shaping future governments and the future of humanity. This is from the World Government Forum, or the World Government Summit's what you call it, official web page.
This summit is important because everything is addressed from the health issues, from education issues, from government issues, from conflicts and management of conflicts. I would say the very survival of how governments will be in the future. So most important summit because it's looking at all aspects of government and. We are also looking at the future.
Well,
For example, this morning
we
when
know
when
Eminem's in the
topic was
Illuminati.
on the New World Order, this is something that will touch everybody, and we should all be involved in it because whether we like it or not, the New World Order will dictate how
Could be
things
Rabbit said
go.
fuck the free world.
Listen to this figure. Let's listen to the last thing he said again.
Will dictate how things
Oh, didn't go far enough.
The New World
Oh,
because whether we like it or not, the New World Order will dictate how things go.
okay, so this is something that is acknowledged. This is something that's happening, right? That's what we get from these folks at the World Government Summit. We could look at a few other videos here. Let's take some other clips from their official site here.
2.9 billion people still remain offline, and 40% of the developing world are not using the internet. Governments have a significant role to play in strengthening the resilience of their population.
Now, what else do they do? They also have a role in using big tech to censor people and stop people from being able to get information, right? So you've got people that are not online yet. This sounds to me like this is not people that we
These aren't
have.
people we can control yet.
Yes, I think they call it the internet for a reason. Or the World Wide Web, and we think of what a spider web is for. So, sorry, I'll continue here.
Does it bug you?
Yes.
Communities, and critical infrastructure, networks, and systems.
Oh, that was almost at the end of there. Okay, so basically, they think that a world government should control everything, is what they're saying over the course of all these different videos. Let's look at one more. Let's look at this one from Prince Charles from a couple of years ago. He's explaining this before. This is one of the reasons that I started talking about this is because I hear stuff like this all the time, and it's not really being discussed on a local level or really a national level, except in a few niche areas. So let's look at this real quick. See, they're fucking up the cities, and they're going to screw all the rest of us over. That's where they want us all.
They're really having to dramatically change the way they do business and move from a static analog world to a dynamic world based on real-time information. And it can't happen without a foundation of policies to help ensure that as you roll out technologies, that you have adequate protections in place for privacy.
This is commentary.
Responsibility.
You see this? You guys seeing this? This is what these smart poles are for. This is just where you want to live. This is what the smart city's about.
These technologies need to be interoperable, and these policies need to be user-centric and aligned-to. The G20 Global Smart Cities Alliance exists because governments everywhere want to know what policies are needed to build smart cities that live up to their values. We're bringing together leading cities, experts, institutions to share these policies through a roadmap built on real world.
It's real odd they're going to count United Arab Emirates and smart cities. I guess the only requirement is to have all that smart stuff like poles, though.
Since the G20 calls for this strategy,
They're going to have them everywhere.
Global Smart City Alliance has
Yeah, it's just high technology. Like,
future of the political
Oh, that's a whole different topic there. Like that, they're such in such a race to appear to be a big city. They don't have a sewage system. Like they have to haul all their poop out every day on semis and stuff. Damn it, we got cameras.
Just a year's time, we've kicked off the largest.
No lag between what we can do and how we can govern. You hear that, folks? They want a large command and control grid overhead. They're saying it out loud now. They want to be able to watch you everywhere you go, track everything you do, and do whatever they want to with you. And they promise to respect your rights. And it's always...
And your privacy.
Yes.
I don't know if we're back on the screen. Okay.
Yeah, we're back on the screen. They're showing, they're talking about privacy as they're showing people walking by in a crowded city with the cameras scanning their faces, everybody that goes by, scanning every car that goes by, keeping track with everybody, looking at who's together, scanning your temperature, your body heat, looking, you know, who knows what they're going to tell you. I mean, they might be able to tell that you're pregnant or something before you even know. And then, you know, who knows when they got places having things like one child policy, and you've got global social environmental scores where everything you do is judged based on what these cameras see and how they judge you against what the AI decides is appropriate. Now, this is what they've said they want to do with this stuff, guys. It's not, you know, conspiracy theory. It's really what's happening. They're rolling it out in the open now, and it kind of follows this same pattern that we see with many of these things, which is, okay, X is not happening, but if it were happening, we would have a good reason, and you know, it wouldn't be a big deal. And then, you know, a little time goes by, and X actually is happening. Turns out, yeah, that it was happening, and there was a good reason for it though. And then a little more time goes by, you get people used to the idea, and actually, the accusation was true all along. X was happening, and it was for this nefarious purpose. And a good example of something like that, and one of the reasons that we want to get into these stories tonight is this new world order. It has been denied for years and years, even as the President of the United States in 1991 gave a speech proclaiming on September 11th, 2001, the establishment of a new world order, basically a framework of nation states that would govern the nations of the planet in their trading, in their dealing, their courts, everything, warfare, anything that modern nations would engage in would be covered by a global infrastructure, a global government framework. And we're now reaching the summit of that. We're reaching the establishment of it in real time as we see the World Government Summit taking place right now. They're rolling it all out in the open, so there's no real stopping this now. The thing is, are you ready for what they have said is coming? And let's look at this real quick this is a clip of a larger, but you can find more. This stuff is all over the place. You can search World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab. Let's look at what he has to say real quick about global energy systems and food supply chains. Let's change cameras again. Wonder why it never works on that camera. It's on there. Let's try it again. Let's look at the Bond villain, Klaus Schwab here, telling us how we were going to leave. Darn it. Not working properly. There it is.
We do not yet know the full extent of the systemic and structural changes which will happen. However, we do know the global energy systems, food systems, and supply chains will be deeply affected. We do not yet.
And the UN, I think, has estimated that an extra 40 million people starved to death this last year, and they're now estimating that, you know, it could be even higher. But what do you think about that statement there? Do you think that sounds like that they really want things to get better right now? It sounds like they are planning on things to get worse in order to make this whole thing happen. As we see, Russia trading in rubles for, well, what it is they have to have I think the story that we showed on last week's episode, I think it was the news and current events update that I did, that the ruble has bounced back and is worth as much as it was before the sanctions were put in place. And they are tying it to gold by actually having people buy or put their money into a Russian bank account before they can purchase the oil from them. So they don't actually have to buy rubles, but they have to put the money into a Russian bank. And they're pegging their ruble now to a certain amount of gold and trying to bring in more gold into the country. So they basically called the bluff of removing the SWIFT payment system and set up their own with India and China, and are just moving right along now. So economically speaking, it's not had the effect that the United States government had hoped it would. So that we see a breaking off maybe a little bit of the emerging world order. And there may be, just like in the movies, when you see there's always one guy that's in charge, and if there's more guys that are equally powerful, they always pretty much fight each other for control of the the power structure. I mean, ultimately, there can only be one top dog in the movies anyway. But I think ultimately you have these world superstate powers facing off and trying to each have their own control over it.
It's like all theater to me.
Well, I think it was like the Chinese maybe were fulfilling their role, and so were the Russians to a certain part, as they were bringing all these things together, though, and they each have their power. Each kind of section is saying, "Wait a minute, I want control of this thing," or and maybe Xi in China is saying, "Well, there's no reason China shouldn't, because they've called off the one-child policy, and they've said start having babies. We need more soldiers, and we need to start living with more traditional Chinese culture and having traditional Chinese icons, and have less effeminate men on TV, and start pushing strong men and military men, and having that be the thing that they want culturally." So it could just be that ultimately the Chinese were supposed to be the enforcement arm, but when you have the military enforcement arm, what happens when they decide? It's almost like when the clone army in
Who are they going to attack?
Attack of the Clone.
Issue.
Well, that's the thing. It's like when the clone army in episode 2 of Star Wars, or is episode 3 where they actually turn? They were brought in for the Republic to use, but it turned out they were controlled all along. So
I guess that's what my issue with all this news reporting and stuff is. Like, everybody's just pretty consistently reporting exactly what we're looking at right here. That here's the new world order, and here's the baddies, and here's the communists, and here's the capitalists, and the stage is set. I mean, like, your parents told you there was a Santa Claus, and that's like lesson number 1. And then, like, we say what we see on the news isn't real, and then we look at it. We kind of like decide when it's face value and when it's not. And I'm just not so sure that countries just don't decide when they're going to attack each other and win. Like, because now they're backing off, aren't they? Like,
Russia's pulling out. Well,
I'm saying it looks like it looked. I don't know. It looks to me. I still think this is more about getting just getting a lot of these changes made. That all these talking heads, the guy that sounds like what's his name? Lyman Zerga from Ocean's 11. That's what the Klaus there looks and talks like. But I mean, like, nobody's gonna go get Putin now that he attacked Russia, right? Or attacked Ukraine. Like, that's over. So now they've got a bunch of stuff going on, and the ends versus the means or some bullshit like that. I'm just saying, like, I just don't believe a lot of the stuff that's reported necessarily from the fact that there's not a war. I just don't believe that all those people aren't in on the joke together.
No,
Yes.
okay. Well, you could be right about that. It could be all one big, one big thing where they're all working together. I tend to think that there's a lot of coordination, but then I also think there's a lot of infighting. With power hungry people, nobody wants to be second place, or nobody wants to be under anybody else. If you're power hungry by nature, then you're going to try to claw your way to the top. So
Well,
I think when they're getting well, how do you mean, like who?
Well, I mean, I guess like who is,
Individually, or-
I guess like what country is kind of clawing their way to the top, I guess, so to speak.
Well, I just mean you've got Russia and China and India all kind of trying to separate themselves from the Western world order, because I think they probably realize, hey, we're not going to be in charge of this thing. Maybe we should be creating our own alternate, super state
Make
to.
our own new order.
Do you think they're not just being set up to be the bad guys, though?
Could be too. Could be too.
Like that, it seems like there's a lot of people that just are set up to be the baddie. That way, when people, because we all need a scapegoat. I really feel like Mr. Biden here is like a big scapegoat, because they were like,
Oh yeah, he was.
everybody, including the people that are still psychologically glued to Orange Man bad, people that are still pissed off about Clinton's affair with Monica Lewinsky, people that are still pissed off about Reagan. I mean, everybody's pissed off. The president has never gotten what he deserves, so to speak, or something stupid. And what if they actually just went and impeached Biden, or maybe just electing a Trump again would do people good? I don't know. It's like, but everybody needed someone to collectively hate, and so they put a baffling old fool up into the White House that just nobody can even sympathize with at this point. And I feel like that they gave everybody the perfect scapegoat.
I think that's the whole reason Biden was even brought in, was to be the guy that's in charge when it all goes down, to be the guy who will be easy to hate and blame everything on and you see the stickers going, well, I did that, pointing to Biden, and he does own a lot of that shit. He does own a lot of it. Some of the first things that he did were to intentionally slow the supply of oil and other resources into the economy. So there's, that was his stated intent. It's not me saying that. That's what he said. So
Do you think they're really doing it for that reason, though? Because I mean, like, I don't know. Maybe I always overthink it, but like, if they're intentionally doing things to increase green, sustainable energy, renewable energy, are you really doing it for that reason, or is an ulterior motive there?
Well, I think the idea is that if we move to green energy, that there will be less of it to go around, and it will have to be rationed out and stuff. That's kind of one of the things that I feel like they're using all this for, is because they want to be able to control who goes where and when, and with plentiful energy, there's no excuse they can give us for why we have to stay at home most of the time, and only they can pay their carbon credits and go out and do whatever they want.
Yeah, the sustainable energy, it's not even like, I guess it's not even really, I guess if you just crunch the numbers in a little bit, you can figure out it's not sustainable. Like, I mean, like, you're getting the energy, but it's not necessarily better for the environment. You're just damaging the environment in a different way, because you've still got wasted fuel cells. Those big propeller things, they fall apart and have to be put places. So there's a lot of waste that still comes with sustainable energy or renewable energy.
And those things, I mean, look at the metal they're made
Not
out
cheap.
of.
Yeah. They're yanking lithium battery. They're just destroying, I think it's Bolivia. They're just making a wasteland out of.
What was it?
Destroying salt fields. So I guess that's the issue with everything has a. I guess the issue that human beings can't learn is there's a balance. So I guess they should have watched some Full Metal Alchemist, the whole equivalent exchange, man. Like, there is literally a cost for everything. We're pretending like electricity is free, and it's not.
Well, hey, just look at this. The other day, Joe Biden, he says he will, from the 31st.
Maybe.
Do what?
I was about to say how he said free electricity. I was like, well, Tesla, if he didn't get screwed over by J.P. Morgan banks.
I mean, I'm open to the idea that there could be free energy, but what they're proposing is not free at all. It's just bad in another way.
I met a guy who knows about solar, who's also a YouTuber. He commented on our last live stream, So maybe we can get him on to talk about something like that,
Okay.
and find out exactly how, solar, how exactly it works, and if it's something that is useful for your average person. Could
When they block out the sun and we don't have solar.
Well, they're
They're blocking out the sun.
yeah, they really have talked about it.
I
And
remember that.
we looked at the fact check on it,
We
and
done
it
the
said,
wind at
"Oh,
that
it's
point?
it's miss. What was it? It said it was misrepresented.
Misrepresented.
Said it wasn't. It did not say it was untrue that Bill Gates wanted to block out the sun. It said it was misrepresented, which it is true. He was talking about blocking the sun with particles that would be put into the sky in order to slow the warming of the planet from the sun.
Well, that's how they get you, though. That's how they get away with lying. They say, he didn't say he wanted to do that. No, he didn't. He said it was an option, though.
Yeah, well,
Same problem because people are doing what his dumbass says.
well, I think there's a lot of something like that going on.
Salt, baby. Me, redneck hillbilly, calling him a dumbass. What? Oh, the irony.
Well, I think we can see that there, if this is all, a play, well, I guess they fooled us. Haha, you got me. I fell for it. You're rolling out the new world order. Surely you're not really doing that in the open now, because you've said for years that wasn't happening, but it's official now. The World Government the World Government Summit is putting it out there. They're saying openly that the new world order is coming. Everybody who's anybody is going to be a part of it, right? You're going to have to keep your environmental, social, and government score high to be able to participate in the new economy, which they'll be able to turn you off. I think it'll start off as something that you have on your phone, but then to make it easier, it'll go to a chip in your hand or a tattoo or something that you can get scanned really easily.
Question about this.
Yeah.
Let's pretend I'm the devil, okay? And I want to eat you. Or put you in hell, right? And you guys are here, and you guys are doing a podcast, and I walk in, and I go, "Hey, y'all doing, folks? Nice to meet you. Oh, by the way, I'm the devil. I'm here to eat you, send you to hell." Why would I introduce myself that way unless I was literally just going to grab you by the throat? I'm just really confused by if they're doing the New World Order thing, check by check, and none of these people are patsies, because I think that's more my theory is that I'm not saying none of this is happening. I'm saying there's a lot of dumb patsies out there who are just kind of like when Chris Farley ran out there, he's on Black Sheep, and the Rastafarians got him to say kill Whitey because he was just repeating everything they said. Like, imagine if these, it just seems like the term New World Order is so polluted on the internet, and the CIA and MI6 they have to know that that's true. So why would you just come out there and openly say, "Hey, New World Order's here. We know we've been saying it's evil." Like, why would the devil tell you he's the devil?
No, they weren't saying it was evil. They said it didn't exist.
But now they're still calling it the New World Order.
And it's a good thing. It doesn't exist now, but yes, it does exist, and it's a good thing.
Call it everything. Call it anything but New World Order. Is my point.
It's a way to create cognitive dissonance. It's explained, in George Orwell's 1984. If you read the appendix of it in the Newspeak, and how they can
intentionally call some things bad things just to, because I just don't understand why you would intentionally draw attention to a certain group of people unless you planned on them being the center of the lynch mob later.
If you say this is bad, you're crazy. This doesn't exist now.
But they're building an army, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because this is for us to be saying right here isn't necessarily unique anymore. Like, if we'd have been doing this in 1992, people would call us batshit crazy. But to say there's an Illuminati or a New World Order or something, people don't think you're crazy anymore. I'm just wondering if they know there's an opposition to even the idea, but not necessarily a militia or anything like that, why would you come right out and say, "Hey, we're the bad guy"? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
They're not saying they're bad. They're saying it's good.
But they're still using the word. Like, I guess what I'm saying is they needed to spend about 20 years saying the New World Order was a good thing instead of just ignoring it before they played the card of, "Hey, I'm the devil." That's what I'm saying. Maybe they're just stupid. Maybe that's my problem.
I think it's hubris. Yeah,
They're just arrogant.
Or I guess it could be like that one great, going back to the devil thing, that, like the greatest trick the devil ever played is convincing the world he did not exist.
But now he pops in the door and goes, guess what, bitches, I exist. I'm the devil. It just doesn't make any
And we're gonna have lots of fun, baby. And you're gonna own nothing, and you're gonna like it. You're gonna live in a little 200 foot room.
That goes against Sun Tzu. Is that the guy that did the Art of War? Is that right? Don't let them know you're coming, or whatever. I was said in the most redneck way. Don't let them know you're coming. But essentially, yeah, don't tell them don't give your enemy your business plan. I guess
Well, I think this
You
follows.
just got them so cumbersome to it, and then you're like, hey, here we go.
But I don't think the internet's cumbersome right now. I think the internet is very active and probably the most active it's ever been.
I think
It just blows me away that if this is all completely going completely to plan, I guess it just blows me away that you come right out and say, "Hey, I'm the devil. I'm here to eat you." And that's what they're saying.
Well, think about it this way: we're already divided up into our groups, right? You've got people who know that this is going on. Solar power and electricity and electronics says you can't own land. Yes, that's very true. You're still always paying for it, and if you don't pay for it, they'll come and take the land from you. But yeah, there's. Oh shoot! I lost where I was going with it. I want to make sure. Thank you for sending us the chat there. Solar power, electricity, and electronics.
Is that what you're trying to go? I asked him that question we had earlier since we forgot our point anyway.
No, it'll be longer than that. He'll have to give us.
Okay, we'll ask him. Say, hey, come on later.
Yeah. We'll be in touch about it. We definitely want to ask him to do a video with us on some stuff about solar, because we have a lot of questions about that. So you might be the one to give us some answers on some of it. But yeah, I was getting into the New World Order has basically galvanized, the term has galvanized people into the camps of, okay, one, you are actively or inactively against it. You hear negative context when you hear that term. Okay, that's one group. I would find myself in that group. Then you have another group that dismisses that term. When you hear that term, you're not going to pay attention to it because this is a conspiracy theory. It's not real. There's nothing worth listening to. These people are crazy. I'm not going to pay attention to that. Then you have the people who have looked at it and said, okay, this is real. Now, how do I be a part of it? Because this thing's coming. There's, no avoiding this. I want to find my place in the New World Order. And, that's a combination of these camps. So now everybody's decided where they're at. So they're rolling with it. They've got the steps they needed in place. The pandemic gave them the opportunity to basically beta test the rollout of the surveillance grid with the contact tracing, with all the different emergency powers that they used to have people do all kinds of stuff, compliance testing. I think they found out what people would put up with and push their limits, and they said, okay, now we've got the infrastructure in place. They put in the 5G while everybody was at home. Those were the essential workers putting up the towers to allow the Internet of Things infrastructure to be set up in a lot of the larger cities, and they're ready to roll with it now. So they're tired of waiting. These people want to be in charge of it, and they want to roll with it while they have the chance.
I'd like to posit a theory, though.
Yeah, give it to me, baby.
Same way as, for example, I guess let me give an analogy so I can kind of make this jump here. There is the theory that a lot of World War II was used to basically create a horrible scenario to get a lot of things to happen, like jumpstart the evolution of killing machines and things like that. And so if things, even though they do happen, that's not my argument that these things are not being rolled out. My argument is not that we're not having smart cities, there's not nefarious people that are making bad things happen. I always try to look at it from a little bit of an angle, and if we use that as a theory that maybe they just wanted to make a lot of weapons and kill a bunch of people, I think, if they're just out there saying New World Order over and over again, I'm telling you, hey, I'm the devil, what I'm saying? Just because people didn't know that word existed or thought it didn't exist, now that people are saying it, they'd be like people showing up tomorrow and Biden raising a swastika up and being like, no, I swear, folks, it's fine. We're good with the swastika now, that everybody just being okay with it. I feel like a lot of these people are going to be patsies, and for example, all this stuff's going to play out, right?
I mean, they're sending money to Ukrainians flying a swastika. So
Yeah, but there's the dumbasses. What I'm saying is, you're going to have your smart cities. You're going to have your homeless roundups. You're going to have all this crazy stuff happening, and people are going to be okay with it. I'm just saying, at some point, people are going to want blood, and they're going to give them these people, and they're going to go, yeah, kill them, chop, chop, motherfucker, ha, and then all that shit's going to stay. You're going to have all these people die and whatnot, and then you're like, we were going to kill fascism, like, we need to stop Nazis, and then the next thing we did was make a UN, right?
and then Operation Paperclip, we brought all the
That's
Nazi
what I'm saying. We
scientists
kept
over.
all their shit, is what I'm saying. Just because, I'm not saying like
Modern
this
medicine.
isn't happening. I'm just saying some of these people that are going, yeah, New World Order, I'm saying I think they're being set up as patsies. I'm saying
Well-
that's who's going to have their head cut off, and then we're still going to have your smart city.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, and they're the only ones. They're the ones, the gophers. They're the middle management in charge of setting this thing up and being the public
You
face
won't
of
be
it.
on the camera.
They're the people who own this stuff are the people who have the money in corporations like BlackRock and Vanguard, and who have their money in the private central banks throughout the world. These old families that have spent centuries learning to hide their wealth and to hide their power while they play. Use it for influence behind the scenes. You know what?
Intro song.
Beg pardon?
Roll the intro song.
Yes, the men behind the curtain, as it were. So yeah, we need to put that song out for everybody so you can listen to it by itself without having to watch an episode of the show. Well, we just put the song out there that Tim and Dustin and I recorded, the men behind the curtain.
Over in Glitter Kitten Studios.
Yep. And Tim's got a nice studio down there. We made it pretty good sound. Oh, it is
efficient,
nice.
it works.
It's nice though.
Like a skater boy built it.
Well, it does. It's but it serves the purpose and it makes a good sounding record. So we've established that a new world order is coming to pass. How do you find your place in that new world order? And as I said, I think that we're past fighting a lot of it. I mean, we here in Carter County, we have the smart radiation, or we have the smart meters here on our house. We had Mr. Usack went down to, I think it was Frank Usack, went down to the city council in Elizabethton to protest it. And he said that these things are creating a high amount of energy. And the response that we got from the city was, well, if Honeywell, knew these things was putting out too much energy, they would recall them. Surely they wouldn't put out anything that would hurt anybody. And maybe they're not harmful at all. I don't have any idea, but they can be read from, it said, a few hundred meters away or a few hundred yards away. So you can imagine, several hundred yards, I think is what it said. So, but radio signals go for miles, and they're pretty high energy radio frequency signals. So I don't know if it would harm us or not, but it's been a topic of conversation in the news lately.
Radio hurt us. Is that a...
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what in some cases it does. I think that was actually how they've discovered microwaves, is they're high energy radio wave emitter of some sort, where people need to make, let's read this real quick from Solar Power, Electricity and Electronics. People need to make life needing no outside help and satisfying one basic needs, especially with regard to production of food. Yeah, that's exactly where I was going with this. There's Solar Power. I appreciate the comment. Yeah, that's how do you, there's no fighting the New World Order, basically. It's coming. So if you don't want to live by their rules of having their control grid over top of you, you're going to have to make a way to where you can sustain yourself and the way you live without submitting to that. Because as we saw, Joe Biden created a digital currency. Well, he signed an executive order that ordered the Treasury Department to look at creating of a digital currency, what many people are calling FedCoin, which would consolidate.
It's dumb.
Well, it would consolidate a digital coin on the, and there's talk in the World Economic Forum or at the World Government Summit. I don't have this clip because they posted up like live videos of the whole thing, which was like 8 hours at a time. That they allow them to post live videos on Twitter that for 8 hours. I think we can post like a 2-minute video on there, but they put the whole thing up there, so it's hard to find the individual clips of some of it. I found some of them up here, but I don't think I have the one of her saying, oh wait a minute, maybe this is it. No, this is the green energy thing. It's basically they're talking about putting everything onto green energy, and that again gives them the excuse to tell you you have to sacrifice your amount of power, and now they can digitally cut off your energy, cut off your.
No, that's the theory. Is the only reason they really want to get you off of combustible energy is because they can turn off all the they can turn off all the green because it's going to be connected to a network
And ration it out, and have an excuse to basically keep you away from the world at large, so that only the elite can really enjoy the rest of the world. We're kind of stuck where we are, and that goes back to the metaverse that I think they want us all to take place in. They want us in kind of a Ready Player One kind of world, if you've seen the movie or read the novel, where the world is so shitty that we just spend most of our time in a digital metaverse.
Well, it's not even crypto, like with the comments. It's not even crypto at that point, right?
Well, no, it's not crypto. The Fed crypto is not crypto. It is a blockchain that they're talking about doing. Solar Power says no crypto user will adopt USA Fed crypto. Yeah, no, that's the whole point of the executive order, though.
The normie ones, though.
If you look back at the executive order, oh yeah, some of the new
That's what I'm saying, like people
who
buy
are
Shiba
just
coin and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like,
people who really buy it for the reasons that there is cryptocurrency. No, but they're not. But they also, in that executive order, he established that they basically plan to regulate cryptocurrency in the very near future in some manner. So there's definitely going to be some evolution in the crypto world. We're going to see who stays ahead of the game, who's able to create a private, usable coin, usable currency that is unable to be captured, basically, or regulated. That's the whole point, is we want something that's not regulated, that's something that can be used privately, and something that can be exchanged freely and safely, and that can be used as not so much as a store of value, but yeah,
they're going to sell it to. They want something uncollapsible, and they've got these. Some of the theories are using these crypto coins to get people used to the idea of a fully digital currency, and now people are used to it. And now they're just going to make their own.
Well, as we said in a previous episode, most of the money now, what is it, 90% is digital, and only 10% is actual cash. 90% of the money in the supply, if I remember the number correctly, that was in one of our previous episodes. If you checked that out, we looked at how much money is actually digital already. So we essentially have digital money as it is. It's just it's tied to that value of $1 US that we have. Pretty much evaporated over the last year the last 2 years when they printed like $7 trillion in addition to the
40% of it.
Yeah.
So I think they did it on purpose.
Well,
to get the crypto.
The budget's already started going up to $3 trillion. About 5-6 years ago, they started getting up over $3 trillion, and then they spent an additional $7 trillion in addition to the whatever it was, $3.5 trillion budgets. So all that money. A lot of it went overseas. A lot of it went to big banks. Yeah. Well, yeah, they just got another, they got $500 million recently. They got a bunch of these crazy switchblade drones they're just handing these drones out to. It seems like they could just go out to random people who have these remote controlled drones like Solid Snake and fucking Metal Gear, where you fire this thing off of a a little tube, and you can control it and detonate it. It's crazy that they're sending these things out there. What do we got here from Solar Power, Electricity, and Electronics? Monero is private for all users. Yeah, I've heard of that one.
We should get Drew. I don't know how blockchain works. We need to get Drew to create us our own coin and call it Mountain Coin.
Iron
You gotta
coin.
say it that way too.
Mountain coin.
The formula for iron. What is it?
FE.
FE, yeah.
FEM, FEM coin. Make it sound like we're in the LGBT. Yeah,
Yeah, that'll get us all kinds. If we call it FEM coin, we'll get all
Mountain
kinds.
coin.
Yeah, the Silicon Valley will send us all kinds of money without us even having to ask for it. They'll just see us on the exchange and send it right over. So really, that's about probably where we'll end it up for tonight. Is go ahead and be ready to exist without the New World Order if you don't want to be under the power of the New World Order, more or less, because they're rolling it out. Will it succeed? I don't know. We'll see.
I think there'll be a split though.
a lot of people would argue that our elections are compromised. So any attempt to change via the ballot box is moot, and that we're
Well, no, okay, like, well, they say, like, right now you can renounce your U.S. citizenship if you really were stupid enough to do that.
right.
But you lose a lot of stuff that people don't realize that it gives you.
Yeah.
And it gives you no freedoms. It'll just get you kicked out of everything. And so I guess my question is, like, you're predicting smart everything, hive mind people, Ready Player One style, Soma. I guess we'd go back to Brave New World and say it's like almost like a Soma getaway.
A Soma metaverse.
Yeah, if you take a little pill and... Because they're going to start mixing, because people already are. Spoiler alert, people are already mixing drugs in VR to get crazier experiences. So that's going to become more and more prevalent. I'm wondering if this is kind of like, what is that movie with Bruce Willis? Doesn't matter. Not everybody's going to want to do that. Like, some people are going to put their feet up and just, ride down the river of life with it. But a lot of people are going to fight it. And I'll try VR at some point, but I'm not going to jump in and start having cyber sex and stuff.
Well,
So
I think it's gonna come from stuff like meetings and office jobs. There's no reason for doing that. They're
I
going to
get
try to
that.
move that into the
Zoom
metaverse.
calls,
They're trying to move. They've done Zoom. Everybody's used to that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and start having meetings in the metaverse. Let's do commerce in the metaverse. But it doesn't seem like people are as ready to do that as they want us to be, because Facebook and Meta lost a whole lot of money when they unveiled the concept of the metaverse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their stock dropped big time. So I think maybe not as many people are ready for that as they would like. Solar power LOLs at us. Let's see here. All right, so the second part of the episode is meth a plant, and the reason I bring this up.
I thought you meant like a tomato when you first said that earlier, by the way.
Yeah, well, what I was referring to
Is meth a tomato should be the name of the episode.
is meth a tomato. Is that a fruit? Is meth a fruit or
VR
a
is
vegetable?
just gaming. Oh, when I meant drugs, I meant more like Xanax and shit like that. I'm just saying, the way I know the touch and feel reflexes are tonotopically across the brain. A great VR experience, hypothetically in my experience, would not be one of those goofy ass treadmills.
Yeah.
They should be able to just put a little thing on you and stimulate parts of your brain once they get it good enough to make it feel like you're doing all that shit. That's completely more believable. That it would be more like Sword Art Online.
Oh, yeah.
Than it would be like Ready Player One.
Well, I think they have some of that stuff, and it actually goes through these sensations through your hands. I was reading about a sex robot thing, or virtual sex thing for cyber jerking, I guess they would call it.
Have you ever seen that first
cyber wanking?
first film with the THX?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Go ahead. Sorry.
It showed.
Jerkbot. You seen it?
I don't think so.
No, this was a cyber sex machine, basically, where you put on and you wear gloves, and it stimulates other parts of your body through the nerve centers in your hands. So it gives you the sensation that you're having touch in other parts. So no, solar power, VR is not just gaming.
It's also porn. It's also porn.
And I do think eventually they want us to spend a lot of our time in this virtual space
I don't think
more
they'll
than
have to make it. I
outside.
think it'll be very voluntary.
I think so
It's
too.
gonna be awesome. That's why.
Well, it's gonna be awesome, and the real world is gonna get shitty. They're pretty much telling us that the real world in the first world is you're gonna lose a lot of standard of living.
Jokes on them.
You're gonna lose a lot of standard of living. In the third world, you're gonna have a lot of loss of life. They're estimating. I think it's that 40 million people already starved to death. They're estimating that if this war in Ukraine doesn't straighten up and we lose a lot of this wheat and a lot of the production coming out of there from fertilizer from Russia, that we could be looking at hundreds of millions of people starving to death. And it's all, this, you're asking how can they do this? And pretend to be, the good guy or whatever. They're unveiling themselves as the bad guy. Why would they do this? And it's always in response to a crisis. But if you look back, they tell us all these problems that they're going to fix. But did you know that governments was the number one, what is it they call democide? As the governments were the number one killer of human beings in the 20th century. Their governments killed more people than any other thing.
Except death.
Except death. Except that. Well, I don't know. I think when you categorize that when you include starvation because of government policy, such as what you had in China and Soviet Russia, they starved to death. There was a lot of people died, in World War II, but then you had the starving to death after that in the aftermath in Soviet Russia and communist China. It was insane. You're talking 60, 80 million people, from in Russia and China respectively. So that's a big way that people die is by government policy causing people to starve to death, and that's happened over the last 2 years with the pandemic measures that have gone into place and the lockdowns and the breaking down of supply chains. That's higher prices here and empty store shelves. When we see that here, that means people are dying in the third world. So I don't know what we can do about that. I don't know if it's beyond anything we can do, but what we can do is make sure, like solar power, electricity, and electronics says, people need to make life needing no help in satisfying one's basic needs, especially in regard to production of food. So now's the time to do that. You got enough time. The super inflation that many are predicting hasn't hit yet. If you've got some money in the bank account, it might be a good idea to go out and grab you enough canned food to fill up a shelf, grab you a couple totes of rice and beans, and grab you some way to filter water, some medical products, some hygiene products to stock up on for a little while. Just you never know how things are going to be. And worst case scenario, you use this stuff and just throw it into your rotation of your regular household use and replace it. And it's a good idea to grow a garden. We've told you how to get in touch with Free Range Farm down there in Elizabeth, and they can help you on your homesteading and help you know how to start a garden, raise chicken, raise goats, spin wool, all kinds of good homesteading skills, stuff that people used to know how to do. I was fixing my lawnmower today, and I got to thinking, man, I should have made a video about this, because there's a lot of people who, it's something as simple as replacing a solenoid and testing, the current on a lawnmower. That's just something that probably a lot of people just don't really know how to do, and it's getting gold, copper, and lead. Solar Power says, yeah, he's right about that. It's getting to where
Bottle caps more like it. Sorry, I didn't see on you.
Well, it's getting to where people really don't have a lot of basic skills for living, so that kind of makes me worry about what could happen if.
I think those are the people that are going to be the ones that tick off. Like, I don't mean to sound like dark or anything, but if you're saying that 40% of the people are going to tick out, I don't know if you've looked at TikTok or Tumblr lately, but there's a whole lot of people that are not going to be able to even survive inconvenience.
Yeah,
let alone an actual.
Well,
infection.
and that's what worries me is you've got places like large cities where the supplies run out. What are they going to do? They're going to go out into the countryside, and the people who do have things, whether it be food, medicine, you better hope you have a way to protect that, or.
I think a lot of those people get eaten first by the criminals.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm afraid a lot of that's going to happen. Then you're going to have a lot of these folks come out, armed and
ricochet theory, man. Let's start what I call Starship Troopers theory. That right now we've been pushed so far onto the radicalized left that at some point it's going to hyper flip to the right, and hyper flipping to the right would be sort of like a Starship Troopers, where service ensures citizenship, and it's given everybody this sort of. It's almost like the war is the background to everything that's going on. Everybody's focused on getting laid, and after I get done going to war, I've got this career set up for it. It's like the war, everybody knows they're going to go out there and shoot a bunch of shit and stuff, but that's just the first step to life. It's the next thing.
Would you like to know more?
If you could just convince, the U.S. population to embrace the brutality of full-blown capitalism and fascism and survival of the fittest, if you could actually convince everybody in the United States that that's a good thing, they would eat the whole world. And that's kind of what I think they're trying to flip everybody into. Let's show them what hippies can do with wrenches, and let's show them what Antifa is really about. And then when you finally put enough pressure on them and they flip and decide to fight back, they'll overdo it. Because I think that's what they.
Well, they're definitely putting a lot of the the what you'd call, I guess, leftism overtly out there, and to the point of absurdity. We're seeing the worst examples. You know, those come up and make their way around social media, and it's definitely creating a reaction of hate when you see some of this stuff, like the opposition to the bill down there in Florida. They're calling it the "Don't Say Gay" bill, and a lot of people are not even, you know, looking at what the bill actually does. And it doesn't say anything about saying gay. It says you're not going to be talking about sex with kids under you know, third grade and under.
We had to sign the
Any
permission
kind.
slip. I had to take a permission slip from my parents.
Yeah, I remember, and that was in like
5th grade.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to say just for them to give us the puberty talk, which was going to say our nads are going to go hair.
yeah, and then you had
Okay, well.
they taught you the biology.
I knew that was going to happen.
They taught you the biology, and they taught you about diseases.
And the next year they taught you, it's like, all right, here's a cooter. They get hairy too.
And that was when you were getting to that age. So I mean, but why do they want to talk to kids that young about it so bad anyway? That's the whole thing. It's not you know, don't say gay. It's don't talk about sex stuff with them. And you know, that Tennessee, you know, did that thing we talked about where it's like, you know, let's not get absurd with this here. I'm the last guy to, you know, I'm not some uptight square or whatever, you know. But the kids don't need to be talking about sex of any kind at that age. Yes, they're kids. I saw a picture of former presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke. I think he's running for governor of Texas now.
Is he?
He's wearing a shirt saying "Leave trans kids alone." I've got a better one for you there, Beto. Leave kids alone. Period. Just leave them alone. Let the parents take care of that stuff. Let the kids work it out. We don't need to be teaching them a bunch of stuff about that in school. It's look, people our age where they didn't teach us about that at school, but we became kind of pretty much the most accepting generation, you know, so far. Up until the newest generation. I mean, the millennial generation is what spawned all this whole, you know, list of pronouns and a list of, you know, 57 different gender types or whatever it is, you know. So
What is it up to now? 72 or 76?
What's that?
Gender pronouns.
Oh, I don't know, but that came from the millennial generation. We didn't have teachers, you know, essentially grooming us in school for us to become accepting of those kinds of lifestyles and not give people shit about it.
And I know I will never speak about people's kids as I don't have any. But I spent quite a bit of time in psychology, and one of the issues that where gender studies went awry is psychologists tried to figure out why people bang what or have the desire to fuck whatever.
I don't know.
And so in the efforts of trying to figure out why people want to have sex with what, scientists, bean counters, started doing exactly what they do, and they started put, okay, they're attracted to this and this and this, and then until you have groups like cis and bi and I like to be inside of a building and jerk off. I mean, it's every manner of thing because people have a lot of kinks, and so in the process of all these labels, people started looking at it and going, oh, that's me, and they started wearing it like a gamer tag. And I don't have a problem with that, but what I do have a problem with is grimy people who decide to use people to make money off of that sort of twisty. So it's not that there's no science to. I feel like that's the issue. Is like the left. That's the science of that is being pushed on the left, and I feel like the right is going to completely discredit a lot of this stuff, when really it's a lot of misrepresentation.
Well, and a lot of it is basically keep your kink. You don't need to share your kink with children.
It's not kink shaming. It's you shouldn't be a substitute teacher talking to third graders about why you like to flick your balls. You know, or I'm just playing.
Whatever it may be.
It is,
whatever that kink is, that's not anything you need to be discussing with kids, and that's why they passed the thing there in Tennessee, and that's why Florida did the same thing. So, you saw a lot of that stuff really making people upset in a lot of different areas of the country, and you see in response to that, political commentators such as well, Jesse Kelly, for one, he's somebody who's on, I think he's on a guest commentator on Fox News, but I see pieces from him where he says, you know, we got to take control of this government and we got to get even with these people and we've got to stop them everywhere we shut them down every chance we get. Don't ever let them get back in power and, you know, destroy them basically politically.
Militarize them.
And he said they would do it to you if they could, and if you don't do it right now,
He's
they're
not
going
wrong,
to. Yeah.
but-
Well, no, there's nothing I could argue with that he's saying that's untrue. It's that it is, you know, upping the ante on everything.
Well, that's what started the left, though. Like that's what got the left to started was
Right.
we got to make sure they never get in office again.
Yep.
And now you've got this because when you have the idea that this side's never going to win again, you can get some really weird stuff going because the right's going to do it too.
We've got to take power now before, you know, they have the chance to implement these measures, and we've got to take out. That's pretty much what Hitler did, right? I mean, taking out the one group at a time that he was blaming for things. So
The biggest question is, why does they not being in power, you being in power, why is the power even able to be that high to be able to do such things is the problem.
yeah, that was the whole idea of the American government, was that you don't give the government that kind of authority. And that's what the Constitution is supposed to be. But ultimately, even though the Constitution can still be used to a degree for legal protection, the fact that you often have to sue after the fact, and then you may actually regain some of your freedoms from it, or you may get some kind of redress of grievances from it. It's often inadequate to protect your freedoms because many people, unless they know how to use it and to hire an attorney, they are not allowed those protections. So it might as well not even exist for them. You have people wrongfully imprisoned. You have people that, you know, are illegally searched, and all kinds of stuff that never makes it into any kind of statistics that, you know, nobody really knows about. So the Constitution says that the government is supposed to be restrained from those things, but they do them every day. Solar power and electricity says you do you.
Probably in regards to my nut flicking comment.
Yeah.
I do have a question, which is, how do they grow the methamphetamine tomatoes?
Well, let's get back into that, because the whole thing I was getting to is there a government agency or nefarious group or some other, you know, entity, NGO, cartel, whatever, bringing this stuff in here with the purpose of. Yeah, because we see a lot of different crimes being committed. We see a lot of, I don't want to get into individual things. These are people's lives around here. I don't want to discuss the crimes individually, but we do see a lot of drug-related crimes, including murders. And it seems like a lot of people that you see that you went to school with that, you know, turned out, got onto this stuff, have been capable of some really bad things that you'd never.
People I've known over the years, you just see them and you know that they've been on it.
Yeah.
So it's just a distinct look people get when they get on meth.
Well, I got attacked by a meth head down in Johnson City while I was working. Just randomly attacked by a guy over nothing. Just showing up to do my job, and he started yelling at me that nobody asked me to come
Tell him
here.
if he's not joking, I would like him to explain that comment, because
He says plant-based meth is the next frontier of Afghanistan's drug trade. It sounds like a joke, but I don't know. But my whole idea is it planted here, because we know that whether or not there was a actual nefarious purpose to it, as many have accused the CIA of intentionally sending crack into the black communities in order to further break down the home there. That they saw the threat posed by the rising black population, and that black families could not be allowed to exist as they were, is the theory, that they wanted to have the fathers out of the homes and have the mothers dependent on the state to feed the children, and that there would be, drugs implemented into the society, into the community to further bust up the home, to keep crime high, to make it difficult for black communities to rise to the level of other communities. And there's some evidence that whether or not that was nefariously done and intentionally done, if you go on, I shared this in the description of the video. This from the Office of the Inspector General for the Department of Justice. I shared the direct link to their site. It's a rather long article, so we're not going to get into read the whole thing here, but I'll give you the kind of the Cliff Notes version of it. And it goes into some stories from Mercury News and a piece called Dark Alliance, where they
It's real apparently.
investigators have uncovered a burgeoning local trade in the production of methamphetamine using a mountain shrub. Well, I'll be damned.
Mormon tea, perhaps, because there's one called ephedra seneca, and in small amounts they call it Mormon tea. But there's natural Sudafed in those plants. It's just the ability to make pseudoephedrine from that plant. You'd have to have a lot of it, but in theory, if you had a lot of ephedra seneca, you could make meth with plants.
Well, that's aptly titled then, I suppose, because
Organic fair trade.
we do know that the
Pseudoephedra is just a synthetic equivalent of that.
show you a quick look of this here from the Department of Justice's page. Now, this goes into the Mercury News story about how there was the Contra groups. All right, these CIAs, they were basically funding the Iran, or funding the Contras through the drug trade, and they got busted with Oliver North running the mission apparently, and a lot of these guys were encountered in the crack epidemic in Los Angeles. Now, this goes on to say, yes, he was. There were guys connected to the CIA that were selling crack or were selling cocaine into the streets of Los Angeles to the Crips and Bloods, but they were already making crack cocaine in that area. This was not new to them. Never mind, but let's go down here to the beginning, to the end of this, where we go into. Let's find this one part right here. Blandon, this is the guy working for the CIA that was selling the drugs in Los Angeles, told a federal grand jury in 1994 that he sold between 200 and 300 kilos of cocaine from Manassas in L.A. In court, he swore all the profits from that cocaine went to the Conquerors, and he was selling it for $60,000 a kilo. Some might call it an extrapolation to describe 12 to 18 million as millions. I call it math. So that's from OIG right there. That's showing you that they did in fact send, 12 to 18 million dollars worth of cocaine into Los Angeles there, just through that one guy. That's the guy that got caught. Okay, there doesn't necessarily they didn't.
He was the dumb one. Then.
Yeah, there was two guys here that are referred to in this one, and this goes on to say, well, yeah, they did actually sell a lot of that, and they try to make light of it and say, well, they didn't introduce it into, and it's not the one destroying the community, but they found a way to market it, and they found a way to get it out there, and they pumped it in there, and they took advantage of that community to the tune of 12 to 18 million dollars to fund their little projects, their secret black projects around the world that they couldn't get funded because nobody wants to go sticking their noses into other countries' business like that illegally. So that's why they had to do that. And that's one of the reasons a lot of people say that they made the drugs illegal, is because if you go back to China when the British took over, one of the ways that they did that was through laws against drugs, and they would use those to corrupt local watchmen, policemen, city councilors, or the equivalent of in China, and they would blackmail them by knowing that they were using drugs, or they would, they would corrupt them basically in one way or another, and make them easy to bribe, with whether it be bribing the beat cop with drugs as he goes by. But basically everybody's corrupt, and it lets things get worse and worse and worse until the whole system is corrupt, and then you get corrupt people at the top of it. And that's what they did over there in China, and I feel like that's a lot of what they did here. And then you have meth really taking off over the last 20 years, especially here in Appalachia. I mean, I'm sure it existed to a degree, when we were in high school and stuff, but I feel like about the time I got out of high school, I remember people my age started using it, and it started making its way around and becoming more prevalent. And that's when you really started hearing about it on the news too. Was about the early 2000s, late 90s, and then it's become just something that's all over the place now. And my question is, who does it benefit if it does? If it was brought in here, and why would it be done? But it definitely is taking a toll on our local area. We see our sheriff's race coming up, and they're talking about how they want to do something about drugs, and I've heard that a lot of law enforcement doesn't like that there's a lot of drug activity going on. And I've been one who've ultimately I've been for legalized drugs, but my thing is you got to bust them when they start breaking property rights laws, when they start violating people's private property and harming people. There's been murders over this stuff. There's been all kinds of terrible things that normal people aren't capable of doing to
Meth
one another.
is a different animal than
It is.
when we use air quotes drugs, and I would dare say it's probably one of the worst ones too, because if you use even like Xanax or something that's addictive and readily available, I mean, you might have problems like behind a motor vehicle or something, but typically that's somebody who's going to pass out on the couch watching Netflix. Whereas meth, man, you do a line of meth, you might be up for 3 days stealing crayons from the Dollar General. And I mean, I know that sounds like a cartoonish example, but it's just a different animal altogether. Even as uppers go, like cocaine, people take cocaine, they go find some hookers and they go to the club. People take meth, they try to carve the snake that's on their own heart out.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any idea where it might be coming from. Solar Power Electricity and Electronics says, I know people was killed from smoking weed with fentanyl. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people have died from the fentanyl. I mean, you've got the fentanyl and the meth. You could argue that there is a conspiracy to bring in the fentanyl, because you see that get approved, and next thing you know, it's all over the place coming in from China, and it's in all the drug supplies. Lots of people. I've just heard of somebody the other day getting drugged with fentanyl and dying. It happens all the time. Yeah, people. I mean, they say like a little dusting of it's enough to kill several people. So really, guys got to watch out, man. These drugs will fuck you up. Especially nowadays, you never know what you're really getting.
You can buy it from the store, it'll stop being killed. That's what originally they were calling it.
That's what I say too, man.
Portugal method, where drugs were just so bad that they legalized everything. So at least then people weren't smoking the cocaine residue out of cigarettes.
That's what I've always said, is if it was at the store, it would be cheap. The thing that makes drugs profitable is the illegality of them. It's not expensive to make cocaine. It's not expensive to make methamphetamines. It's if it's the illegality that makes it expensive, and that's what really causes most of the problems. I think if they did make it at the store, people would buy a cure, have it tested. That would be one function. It doesn't have to be even government. If you're an ANCAP or something like that, I mean there's a national standard for things like USP that is not government regulated, but there's things like this that could happen, or you could have government regulation. Either way, that's a lot better than having people buy it from random places and getting laced drugs and stuff like that. We see marijuana being legalized in Virginia, though the Republicans there they slowed down the retail sale of it. People can still grow it. They can still own it in their house. It was shut down here in Tennessee for the time being, but it's happening. It's got to happen eventually, especially with the casino coming in, and I think even hard drugs. Myself, I think that's the way to really deal with that, is to have compassion for those people and have a way for them to get out of it. But ultimately they have to make the choice themselves, and let's make it where someone who's desperate for drugs doesn't have to come up with a lot of money in order to be able to buy the drugs, so therefore they have to break into your house and steal your grandma's wedding ring, or take your stereo to get $10 or whatever. These drugs would not be expensive. and I don't think they would be nearly as enticing to new users too if you had to go to the government and get your drugs. You know, it'd be a lot less cool to go down to the government or the health department or whatever it was and get your drugs. And a lot of people make fun of these things, like these the Biden administration giving out crack pipes, and I think that's probably rooted in the same idea.
Cleanliness is what they said it was rooted in.
Yeah, well, I think we could look at the idea that if people are going to do drugs, then we want them to do them safely if they're going to do them. So, I mean, our years of war on drugs has not stopped people from doing drugs. It's just gotten worse and worse.
Oh, it's also a forest for the trees sort of misnomer too, because there's this giant correlation because we're going to say most people that do drugs just do the drugs, and eventually it's recreational or they just don't do them anymore. Most drug people are debilitated addicts, and there's this giant correlation with the life ruined addicts, also with past trauma or the fact that their life is just really awful. And so for people to blame it completely on drugs, and if meth didn't exist, these people would not be in the shape that they are. I mean, maybe, but I really doubt it, because if people are in pain, they're going to find an outlet for it. If it's not meth, it's going to be crack, or if it's not crack, it'll be alcohol,
You're right about that.
etc.
So yeah,
Even though alcohol might not make you do some horrendous things, is all it can, but not like meth.
well, you have. I've seen some definitely horrendous things on alcohol too, but you have. Like you said, it's a multifaceted problem, and it doesn't just stem from the drug itself. The drug is a response to the problem in society. And, you don't want to, with legalized drugs, you don't want to end up in a place like, in my opinion, what we see in San Francisco, where it's done so openly out in the streets that, people are laying out on the street corners. And you still have to have a semblance of society. So, something along the lines of a methadone clinic like we have around here, or a Suboxone clinic, where people go in an orderly manner, they get their dose and they take it, and they have to do it in such a manner there where if you come in there, they're not just going to turn you out on the street shitting all over the place, like a zombie walking through there. There's got to be some kind of middle ground between.
I believe in the middle ground. I think you should be allowed to buy drugs if you want them.
I do too.
I don't think you should be allowed to shoot them in front of children on the street.
Yep.
And I think if you got yourself in that situation, people should be merciful and try to help you get out of it. But if they catch you breaking into their car so you can sleep in the trunk, I think they deserve to have the ability to kick your ass for doing so, because life has consequences and cause and effect,
Thank you for succinctly summing up what I feel about it. That was perfect. Mm-hmm. I don't think I could have done it much better. And with that, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. I think we're about good there. That about wraps us up.
Oh yeah, I blew my steam.
Oh yeah,
steam.
I don't have anything.
It's hard to top what you just said there. Hey, Solar Power Electricity and Electronics, thank you for joining us. I appreciate all the comments and appreciate all the insight. I'd love to get together with you to talk to our viewers about solar power and what that looks like for a person on an individual basis. How are you taking your freedom back using energy? I think that's one important way to do it if you want to maintain your current lifestyle, is to be able to make your own energy in some way or another. So I'd love to talk to you about that for a future episode. I know we talked about the New World Order. Do it?
Down near the bottom, he said contact you. Or solar power. It's down at the bottom. You can read bottom.
Okay. Yeah, I can't scroll anymore.
Oh,
you got it, man. I'll contact you.
Keep hung with us this long. He said AC's going to come here and talk us about his candidacy race. Danny Ward has agreed to come on too. We just haven't set a time. If you know any political candidates that we're willing to talk to any of them, see what their stance are. We're not trying to railroad anybody, get any gotchas. Just give everybody a platform. You are voters. They're more likely to listen to you. If you contact them and say, hey, go on this show, people listen to it. Yeah. I mean, this is a small audience of people. We've got 90 subscribers. Most videos get anywhere from 70 around there. So it's a lot of people watching. But the most important thing is, that's people that actually are voting, because, like I said, these aren't viral videos; these are real clicks.
Hey, we're getting roughly the equivalent of WJHL, the local news channel.
That's true.
For the amount of videos, they put out a lot more videos than us too. So some of theirs get a lot more, and some of ours get a lot more. But we're getting roughly the same amount as their YouTube videos.
Quality.
Yeah, so we're not getting on.
Business quality.
Hey, we're our new media, which is unfiltered media. I mean, even though we're on YouTube and in certain regards we have to watch what we say, I don't think we're to the point yet where we're getting hit with the algorithm the way some things are, because we've hit some subjects that definitely. Of course, we could be getting shadow banned in some way too, but yes, everybody check out Solar Power and Electronics YouTube channel. I'll link that in the description of the video.
He's on there clout bragging.
Yeah, he's clout showing off with his 8.4K subs. He does have a good audience there, and he's got some informative videos. I watched some of them.
Got more quality. We've got that actually. Sounds like.
And he's got a really cool video. I watched. He played
People making dick jokes in Carter County.
he does some good editing and stuff, and he did one where he played some airsoft. He did his first time playing airsoft, and that was fun to watch. So check his channel out. I'll link it in the description right quick. Let me go ahead and do that. Solar Power and I'll do that as I finish right here. It won't take me long. But hey, now, I appreciate y'all joining us tonight. I appreciate you commenting. I appreciate you chiming in. If you haven't liked and subscribed to the videos, please do that. It really helps us get other people to see them. And thank you for joining us. We'll look for you on Wednesday live at 10 p.m. We appreciate you.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeehaw.
I need to stop doing that. That's what you're saying. Superhuman. The guy that hurt himself. I don't want to be associated with a guy that hurts himself.
What, the whoop whoop?
You're saying superhuman with two M's.
No, I haven't.
Whoop, whoop. Just
Well-
backflip onto a pile of Legos.